Hi everyone, it's M.S.G. I hope you're doing well. And today I'm going to be doing my Veterans of the Long War Detachment review for Chaos Space Marines in 10th edition. This video is going to be very similar to the previous videos that I've done on Creations of Bile and Soulforge Warpack. It'll share the same structure and build and run through. But yeah, let's get into it. So this video is going to cover, like I said, a brief description of the detachment rule, which is called Focus of Hatred, an overview of enhancements and stratagems and combos, which are the highlights of the detachment, any strengths or any weaknesses which might hamper overall efficacy, standout units which work well within the detachment, including a few list ideas which I'd personally bring. Overall rating will be done at the end of the video, as very, like I said, it's going to be the exact same as the previous two videos, except this one's just going to cover the Veterans of the Long War. But yeah, if you want to pause at any point during this, feel free to do so. First, we're going to go for the actual rule. So, the Focus of Hatred. The eldest of the Chaos Space Marines harbour within their corrupted souls a burning desire for vengeance upon the Imperium and the galaxy as a whole. They channel this ire against their chosen targets, relentlessly pursuing their victims until every last foe lies dead upon the battlefield. At the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army to be your Focus of Hatred. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a Heretic Astartes model from that unit, from your army, excluding damn models, makes an attack that targets your Focus of Hatred, you can re-roll the hit roll. Pretty much just Chaos Space Marine version of Oath of Moment, fairly straightforward. The weakness for this, again, is the primary one, at least in my opinion, is damned aren't included, so you can't get any accursed cultist with rerolls to hit, unfortunately. Although this is meant to be the Black Legion detachment, so it does kind of make sense. Again, this is on top of Dark Pack, so you'll still get full rerolls to hit against, your lethals and sustained hits on top of the full rerolls to hit against your Focus of Hatred. This is incredible because you might be able to fish for 5s or 6s depending on the the roll or anything like that. Usually, great. This is primarily great into things you need lethal hits for, like high toughness targets. But yeah, a lot of our units also have access to twin linked, or some of our units rather. The main one being Warp Talons, but I will be able to cover that later on, and the secondary one being the Chaos Lord and Legionaries combo. So not only do you get full rerolls to hit, on top of that you'll get full rerolls to wound, which is exceptional, especially with a high damage army like ours. The only big weakness as well that I can think of without spoiling anything is that it's only against a single target, so a lot of the times you're just going to nuke one thing down and then you've got no faction rule at that point. But it's still a very reliable rule though. So first up we've got the War Master's Gift. It's a Chaos Lord model only. Each time the bearer makes an attack that targets your Focus of Hatred, an unmodified successful wound roll of a 5-up scores a critical wound. That's 15 points, and I've ranked it an 8 out of 10. 5-up devastating wounds on a Chaos Lord with a Demon Hammer is great into a variety of different enemies. Chaos Lords are one of the most cost-effective data sheets that we have access to in Chaos Space Marines, so making their melee damage output even higher for relatively cheap only bolsters this point. So you've got 6 attacks. This is, bearing in mind, this is if you're using your Chance for Glory, which is the Super Saiyan ability. So you get 6 attacks with lethal or sustained hits, hitting on 3s, strength 9, minus 3 AP, 3 damage flat with dev wounds. Obviously the dev wounds will be going off on 5s this time. So I've got my dice with me, so we'll just elucidate how much damage this does. We'll assume that the Chaos Lord also has the Legionaries with him, so we'll do the full rerolls to hit and wound, because obviously you can only get this when you target in your Focus of Hatred. Sustained hits. So we have missed twice. Okay, that's fine. So we've got 1, 2 extra hits. We've missed again, so we've got 1 extra hit from that, which is good. We'll be wounding, let's say 4s. So that's fine. We missed quite a lot of them, but obviously we get to reroll. Okay, so that is 1, 2, that's 2 devastating wounds. 3 devastating wounds, so that is 9 damage off the bat. And then we have 4 regular wounds. So let's say you're going into, I don't know, Custodes, let's say. So that's 3, usually going to be 3 dead Custodes. 4 pinballs. They failed 2, so you have just done 15 damage overall. So if you were hitting a tank, that's probably going to one-shot the tank. You've got a 1 wound on a Land Raider, because I think Land Raiders are 16 wounds off the top of my head. But yeah, that's a lot of damage from one guy. And obviously you can then throw the Legionary attacks out there. They might not, well, they're definitely not going to hit as hard, but either way they're still pretty nice to have. Like I mentioned just now, you can give your Chaos Lord reroll wounds of 1 and reroll wound rolls fully on objectives, obviously if you're using the Legionary ability. Would say this is obviously a staple, like a lot of people now especially know about the Legionary Lord combo where you just run into something and just beat it to death. Again, it's a cheap enhancement for 15 points. It's very nice to have. You could consider bringing this in pretty much every Veterans of the Long War list. I pretty much consider bringing it. It's an auto-include for me, simply because it's that useful. However, in terms of an objective standpoint, this is just a good enhancement. It's nothing game-breaking. It just makes you hit very hard. A very minor weakness that I'd want to point out is that it only works against your Focus of Hatred. So, again, it can be a bit, anemic into anything that isn't, but you'll still hit quite hard. But yeah. Second is Eager for Vengeance, so this is a 6 out of 10. Heretic Astartes model only, and for 20 points, the bearer's unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack that will target your Focus of Hatred, if the bearer's unit fell back this turn, add 1 to the hit roll, and each time you select your Focus of Hatred as the target of your unit's charge, add 1 to the charge roll. So fall back, shoot and charge is obviously very good. You want to put this on a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. That's the best chassis I've found for this, so he's quite durable on his own, but he is very, very maneuverable with this enhancement. Again, if you find yourself getting caught in combat by tar-pitting units which your opponent brings, then you can use this enhancement to escape and basically just pepper with bolt gun rounds whatever it is that we're trying to keep your move blocked or tar-pitted. Or you can just fall back and then shoot a different unit. You don't have to target the one that you fell back from. So a little strategy that you could do with this is you can get tar-pitted by a unit. Next turn, you put something nearby as your Focus of Hatred that you want your Terminators to get into. You fall back from the unit you were currently getting caught up by, shoot that unit with your Combi Bolter spam, and use a stratagem to get dev wounds, which is what I'll explain later. And then you can get +1 to charge into your Focus of Hatred as a result, because getting that +1 to charge on Terminators can be massive, especially given that they're quite slow. But yeah, obviously you'll then get the +1 to hit in melee because these Focus of Hatred, and you'll be re-rolling all your hits as well because of your Focus of Hatred. So it is it's very nasty, because obviously Terminators in melee are scary with the power fists. Again, the big thing for this, it would be a lot better if you didn't have the restriction where if you fell back, then you get the benefit from it. It feels as though like if you get charged, especially by Terminators, unless they're trying to like tar-pit you with like a Carnifex or some kind of tough durable unit that's there to just distract you, you're not really going to have a full unit there. Most of the time, if your opponent's trying to get in the way, it's to either stop you from getting to a place where you need to be, or to just kill you outright. Having that work is nice. I mean, it's still a good enhancement, don't get me wrong, but it's just very weird. Like, it should just... The defensiveness is fine, I guess, but for Terminators, you've already got a very good defensive profile. You don't really care about being extra defensive. But with that said, it is still a really good enhancement to have on your Terminators. Being able to fall back, shoot, and charge, it just opens up so many different avenues that you can go down and, secure objectives. You can do what I said earlier, where you can just bounce from target to target, get that +1 to charge. It's just really, really helpful, and it allows Terminators, who are usually quite very simple, pragmatic, slow, heavy hitting unit, to be a lot more maneuverable. The third enhancement is the Eye of Abaddon. Heretic Astartes model only. While the bearer is on the battlefield, each time you focus a hatred is destroyed, roll the d6, and on a 4-up you gain a command point. So obviously, a majority of the time you're going to be focusing down your focus of hatred anyway, and you're just essentially getting more incentive to do so, given the fact that you are essentially just being rewarded for doing your job. The only weakness that is that obviously you do have to kill your focus of hatred, so sometimes that's not possible. Can be difficult depending on the matchup. Sometimes you don't have the firepower or the positioning for units to get in range to deal enough damage, so you do get like potentially in certain circumstances can have a rough matchup, and on top of that you still need to get the 4-up on the d6 for it to work, so that's a 50% chance. It's definitely doable because we do have a lot of good shooting and a lot of benefit. A lot of units in our codex do benefit from having full rerolls to hit, and it's not as bad as other ones. Like you get on a 5-up, you get a command point, but again, semi-reliable command point regeneration. The only issue I have is, like, let's say you're into a very tough matchup and you want to use your focus of hatred on something, to get rid of it, and you manage to, kill it, you don't get that command point back, if that makes sense. So if you kill your focus of hatred and then you fail, you don't really have any other ways that isn't going to cost you command points anyway to get the focus of hatred back up on the same turn and then kill that. It's still nice to have, like I would still bring it because it's somewhat reliable. There are going to be times where it's going to be an auto include and you're just going to get, lucky at every single turn, but your average game lasts between 3 to 5 turns anyway, so you've got to think about that from a more lateral perspective. So that's 3 chances, 3 50-50 chances at the minimum on a good day that you do get this to go off. So let me just get 3 dice and I'll just prove to you. So on a 4-up, yeah, I've got 1 out of 3. So again, it's there. I'd still bring it. It's still pretty fun to have, and I would make a couple of points. I would probably put it down to like 10 maybe instead of 15, but it's still really usable. And again, another weakness is obviously it's only useful on models which are durable or have ways to hide. So, which I'm going to mention later on, a Warpsmith is pretty good for this because Warpsmiths are relatively cheap. They're only 70 points. Slap him next to a couple of vehicles in your back line, which is what you're going to be doing anyway with them. Not only will they get +1 to hit, so they'll be hitting on 2s and re-rolling all the hits, which is practically 100%. Obviously, it's not 100% because of the math, but you'll still pretty much be hitting reliably every single time. And obviously, if you're killing your focus of hatred, you've got the chance to, pop the 50-50 and hopefully get the command point back. So the longer the holder is on the board, obviously the more potential command points you'll get to regenerate. So yeah. Final enhancement is the Marker Legend. So it's Heretic Astartes model only, excluding damn models. Once per turn you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, or 1 saving throw made for the bearer. It's just nice to have. It's a 5 out of 10. It's 10 points. Like I said, it's cheap. It's a very cheap enhancement. It's there if you need it at the end of your list and you're like, oh, I've got 10 points to spare, I'll just throw this enhancement on a Chaos Lord or something. It's unremarkable, but it's not offensively bad. So being able to reroll a hit, wound, or a saving throw can potentially help on something like a Demon Prince. So for example, if 4 las cannon shots go through and you save 2, and they spike the damage, you could potentially, instead of having them risk the damage going through, you can just roll it and get a 50-50 for an invulnerable save, and that could keep the guy alive. The Demon Prince also, if you do bring it with this, it has the Ascended Demon ability, which gives him reroll 1 hit roll and 1 wound roll. So you're basically just getting to pick and choose, which is nice. But yeah, again, it's a 5 out of 10. It's not bad. First stratagem we're going to focus on again is Endless Ire. So any phase just after you've blown up your focus of hatred, a character unit from your army, excluding damned units, select 1 enemy unit within 12 inches of and visible to your unit. Until the start of your next command phase, the enemy is considered to be your new focus of hatred. So the only scenario, like I've said, I've ranked this a 3 and a 3 or 4 out of 10, so it's either bad or situational. So the only scenario where I can see this being good is against elite style armies. So you have to preemptively position your melee threat, ideally a Chaos Lord variant, within 12 inch range and visible to target 2. put your focus of hatred on target 1 and kill it with your shooting. So you're going to have a lot of shooting in this list, and I'll explain why. Use Endless Ire for 1 command point, 2 command points otherwise, because it is unfortunately a 2 command point stratagem on the second target. Use the remainder of available shooting if possible to hit target 2 and cripple it. Charge into target 2 and hopefully kill it. Obviously, depending on the game, this can be massive. So if you're into something like Knights, for example, or Chaos Knights, and you want to get rid of a couple of, your enemy's hard-hitting units, if half of your shooting kills your focus of hatred and you've still got some decent shooting, like a Vindicator, you can pop this on the Chaos Lord, and then obviously, your Vindicator can then shoot into the Knight, potentially kill it if you spike, because I have seen that happen before. And then your Chaos Lord can just run in with the enhancement, the one that crits on 5-ups, and you're probably going to kill it. And that is helpful, but other than that, it's very situational. Like I said here, it relies on your melee threats not being screened, so you have to rely on your opponent not noticing what your plan is, or being out of position anyway without you intervening. And then it relies on you actually killing what you need to kill, which, given this is a dice game, can sometimes just not happen. No counter to poor rolls, unfortunately. The third is it's extremely cost ineffective into Horde armies, so obviously Horde armies do tend to counter this detachment, simply because if you've got one target and there's about 50, you're going to focus that target down anyway, because Chaos Space Marine datasheets are actually pretty good on their own. You don't need to pay 2 command points to get 4 rerolls to hit against easy kill units. It can help again, sometimes it does. A lot of Horde armies like Guard, for example, they'll bring a lot of infantry, and you want the rerolls to hit on the tanks, so you can just, potentially in certain circumstances, you might need to chew through a 20-man unit of Guardsmen, which can be nice. It's possible you are going to probably get caught in that, so having rerolls to hit would be helpful, but again, like I said, this is situational at best and bad at worst. Second is Let the Galaxy Burn. So shooting phase, 1 Heretic Astartes unit that has not been selected to shoot. This excludes Tzeentch units, so no Rubric Marines, unfortunately, and you're about to see why. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Ignores Cover ability, and change the attack characteristic of torrent weapons equipped by models in your unit to 6. So ignoring cover for 1 CP on Heretic Astartes units is nice to have. So we do have some very lethal shooting, so Vindicators, Havocs, Predators, etc. Being able to give them Ignores cover is honestly really good. This can stack as well with your Terminator Sorcerer's Death Hex. So obviously Death Hex, you point at a unit within 12 inches, roll a dice on a 2-up or higher, that target now has their increased AP against it. So AP3 goes to AP4, AP2 goes to AP3, AP1 to 2, etc. So what I'm going to do is now we're going to get some las cannon shots. So I've got my dice here for some Havocs. So we're going to assume the focus of hatred is the thing that we're shooting into, and the ignores cover. Let's say we're in Space Marines, for example, and there's a unit of a tank behind cover, let's say. So hitting on 3s, we've got 2 6s, re-rolling hits. So that's all hit and 2 extra shots. So that's now 6 las cannon shots. Wounding on 3s. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 wounds. AP minus 3. So it would be a 6-up, but obviously, we'll discount that. All of them go through. So that is d6 plus 1 damage each. Wow, that thing's dead. So that is 7, 7, 5, 2. So my math is terrible here. 7, 14, 21, 23. 23 damage. Obviously, I spiked on the, the rolls there, but yeah, that's still pretty nasty. I mean, that there were a lot of 5s from the roll in there. I think there were 2 5s, so that would have gone through otherwise. So having the ignore cover has essentially just given me enough damage to kill it, which is really good. Having torrent weapons go to 6 attacks max is nice on a Bale Flamer, but the problem is, and I read this up, the Lord Discordant, which is now good, it's a good unit to bring. It has D6 plus 3 on the Bale Flamer. Having the well, using this on it is pointless because you can roll. Let's say I don't know, it's D6 plus 3. It caps the attacks to 6. So if you want reliable damage, you know, on the off chance you're like, oh, I need 6 shots potentially, very very situational, but it's there if you need it. Whereas now, if I roll that, oh look, I got a 3, I've already got 6. I'll roll it again. Oh look, I got a 5, I've now got 8 shots instead of 6. It's just not worth it. And plus, the flamethrower already has ignore cover to my knowledge anyway, because it's a flamethrower. But yeah, the reason as to why you're not allowed to have Zinch units as well, so Rubric Marines don't get this, because getting 30 to 60 shots of Strength 4 minus 1 AP, 1 damage with ignores cover for a command point would be absurdly strong. Alternatively, as well, if you don't want to use this stratagem, you can just bring Noise Marines. Like I mentioned, the Emperor's Children have actually been able to be brought as allies now, so Noise Marines count as elites, not battle line, unfortunately. You can bring a squad of them for 145 points. All their shooting ignores cover anyway, because it's Sonic Blaster or Blastmaster or Sonic Pistol, Screamer Pistol, sorry. But yeah, obviously they don't get the benefit of the detachment. Sorry, not the detachment, the rule, because they're obviously not, they're not naturally heretic Astartes. The only way you can get that is if you put them in a Rhino, but we'll get onto that later. Next up, Black Crusade. I rank this as 6 out of 10. It's for 1 command point. Your movement phase, 1 Heretic Astartes infantry or mounted unit from your army, excluding damned. Until the end of your turn, a unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Bolt pistols, bolt guns, and combi bolters equipped by models in your unit have the devastating wounds ability, while your unit has not already inflicted 6 wounds using this turn, using that ability. So basically, you can essentially just get tank shock on bolt guns, which is a very weird one. 1 CP for advance and fall back and fall back and shoot is very good on mounted units. So, for example, a Lord Discordant, as they're very fast, they've got 14-inch movement. Being able to advance and shoot the Bale Flame is nice to have. Obviously, you won't be able to charge after this, so you do sacrifice that, so it may not be the best in that circumstance. But if you just need to shoot, get up there and shoot something quickly, you do have the option to do that. If you've taken a lot of damage in combat or want to fall back from a unit so your army can shoot it instead, then falling back to hide behind terrain, shoot another unit is a viable option for the play. On a unit of bikers, it's great to get up close against enemies when you've got access to 2 melter guns. So obviously this is situational. Sometimes you need to get a bit extra, get that advance in there, get closer so you're within melter range. 2 shots at strength 9 minus 4 AP, D6 plus 2 damage with lethal or sustained hits is situationally quite strong. Obviously that depends on what you're fighting into. And falling back with 12-inch plus movement, it allows units to make a lot of plays, like retreating onto objectives after fighting, which is good for your utility. So the stratagem's good on a unit of 10 Terminators with a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor leading them. So like I will mention the full combo later on, but it's definitely something to consider when you're building your list. So being able to get access to dev wounds on a unit is just really nice anyway, even if there is a 6 wound limit to it. Again, you do have a lot of combi bolters in a unit of Terminators. A lot of the times, again, it depends. So you can bring combi weapons most of the time. That used to be meta at some point, but obviously the meta changes 24/7, so it really doesn't depend it doesn't really matter what you choose. This circumstance, you want to bring the combi bolters simply just due to the fact that you can do dev wounds on it. And on top of that, you also have the Reaper chain cannons, which can also do dev wounds innately anyway, so you don't even need that. This is also really good on Obliterators as well. So while Obliterators aren't the most competitive unit, simply due to the fact that they are incredibly one and done. Like, you fire Obliterators, that's it. But getting reroll hits on Obliterators is nice. Having advance and fall back and shoot is great, because obviously normally they don't have that. They just have drop them down, shoot them, that's it. Whereas now you can advance, fall back, shoot. If someone tries to keep them tar pitted, you can do the fall back and shoot, and you're probably going to focus put them as your focus of hatred anyway, so you can just get full rerolls to hit on Obliterators, which is nasty. Next up is the Bringers of Despair. I've ranked this a 4 out of 10. It's 2 command points. At the start of your fight phase, 1 Heretic Astartes unit from your army, excluding Damn, that's within engagement range of your focus of hatred. Until the end of the phase, your unit has fights first. So this is either extremely good and will help you in the game, or is utterly pointless depending on the opponent. If you're primarily ranged, you kind of don't really care about this, because you're not even going to be in combat with somebody anyway. obviously, if I'm playing Tau into Chaos Space Marines, I do not want to be in combat with Chaos Space Marines. So unless I'm doing a suicide charge into them on the off chance that I might be able to kill something, that's the only time I really want to be in combat with them. And most of the time, if your opponent charges like Fire Warriors or something into you, you're not really going to need fights first. You'll probably weather the storm and then just punch them back. Alternatively, if you're a melee army like World Eaters, Custodes, Orcs, or Chaos Knights, then Chaos Space Marines have got the option to fight first against your Focus of Hatred and kill it, or at the very least take a piece of it with you before you die. The unit you use this on still gets 4 rerolls to hit, which only increases the chance of you killing it as well, which is good. Obviously, you can get those Dark Packs off. It is 2 command points, so you can lessen it to 1 CP by using the Chaos Lord's abilities, as well as the Chaos Lord in Terminator armor, but it's still going to cost you. Granted, fights first for 1 command point is potentially huge, and having that, access to that is a big deterrent for your opponent, like I mentioned here. So if multiple units charged into your unit, so if, let's say I've got a 10-man unit of Terminators or Chosen in the centre of the board with a Chaos Lord attached to it, or even a Terminator Lord attached to it, you can still fight first. It says if you are within engagement range of your Focus of Hatred. It doesn't specify you can only fight first against your Focus of Hatred. So if they're trying to swamp you with units and try and kill that unit of Terminators, you can then pop this and be like, right, I'm going to fight first, and then I'm going to kill, 2 other units that I've charged into me, and then use the remainder of the attacks that I have on the Focus of Hatred, which you will still get rerolls to hit for. But yeah, I still think that is potentially quite scary. So if you've got like 2 units of Berserkers trying to run into you, you can mark one as your Focus of Hatred, and you'll get to fight first into both of those, not just your Focus of Hatred. You can also use this to deter charges. Like I said earlier, you're in a situation where your opponent has a melee threat which needs to get into combat, then you can make it your Focus of Hatred. And if your opponent isn't durable enough to weather fights first from one of your units, like I said, it doesn't have to be, a unit with a Lord in it, it's any unit. You'll essentially force them to not charge you or go somewhere else, and your opponent can overextend because of this and capitalize on it, because he's got to think, I'm running into somebody where any unit that they fight, unless I'm bothered about it, obviously, if you've got like a 5-man unit of Legionaries against a 10-man unit of Berserkers, or like, Wardens, for example, you're not really going to care about fights first. You can probably tank it, but again, you're still going to take a chunk out of them regardless, and your opponent will automatically think, right, any unit here potentially can fight first. Which one do I want to pick? That's the conundrum you've got to throw towards them. But yeah, it's a 4 out of 10. Next up is Millennia of Experience. This is a 9 out of 10, arguably a 10. Opponent's movement phase just after your unit. I can't get my words out today. Just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move, 1 Heretic Astartes infantry or mounted unit from your army, excluding down models that's within 9 inches of your enemy unit. Of that enemy unit, and not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can make a normal move up to 6 inches. So it's a reactive move, basically, which is extremely strong. Allows you to open up a multitude of different options for play. So being able to move 6 inches when your opponent is within 9 allows you to either move closer to them, should you need to get closer, move through ruins if it's infantry and potentially get away from, vehicles or something that can't go through ruins, move around cover to hide from a unit, or move away from a unit to move yourself out of charge range. So this does work on mounted units, so Bikers and Lord Discordants are the only 2 units in the Chaos Space Marine Codex which have the mounted keyword, and conveniently both of them are very useful in games at the minute. Bikers are a very cost-effective unit anyway, and the oval bases which they have can help potentially for move blocking and screening, so this can help massively in certain circumstances. Obviously that depends on the game. And extra movement on the Lord Discordant is always helpful, especially given the fact that they are 14-inch move. Being able to move 6 inches on top of that gives them a 20-inch move, which is crazy, in my opinion. You can get this for free with your Lord of Chaos ability as well. So if you've got Terminators with a Chaos Lord, you can just jump in, and if someone moves 9 inches near you, you can then move 6 inches away from them, or to them, or onto an objective. You basically get your movement phase again with a bit extra, because obviously Terminators move 5 inches. Makes them very quick as well, which is good. Also helps avoid charges, so your opponent can counter this to some degree. The way that they usually do it is by moving the unit 1 inch away, but that means you can then move 6 inches away from that unit and guarantee a 7-inch charge instead on your opponent. Sorry, make them do a 7-inch charge instead of a guaranteed 1-inch charge. Any unit with 6-inch deep strike hates this as well, because if they, like, for example, use Death Shroud Terminators, you can deep strike them in, immediately then bounce away, and force them to make a 12-inch charge instead, which is really good. And any kind of regular deep striking unit that's 9 inches away, you can literally just move out of charge range, and there's nothing that they can do about it. Finally, we've got Contemptuous Disregard, which is opponent shooting phase or fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its attacks. Its targets. You can choose one Heretic Astartes infantry unit, excluding Damned, that was selected as the target of one or more of the unit's attacks. Until the attacking unit has finished making its attacks, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. It's just armor contempt. It's literally just armor contempt. So it's a 7 out of 10. If this was old school, it would be a 10 out of 10, but I'll explain that in a second. So it's a good defensive stratagem. So 2 up, 3 up armor save units, which is a lot of our codex, are quite difficult to shift anyway, even if they're on cover. So if your opponent's shooting at you with something that has ignore cover, you can use this to counter that with the incoming AP. So ignore cover AP 1, so Noise Marines, for example, Sonic Blasters, excuse me. If you're shooting into a unit, you can just pop this and they go to AP 0. So you'll be saving on 3-ups and on 3-up armor saves on Legionaries and Chosen. If it was the old version where it lasted the entire phase, it'd be a 10 out of 10. So originally this used to work through the entire phase, so it was ridiculously strong. This was like an auto pop every single time you could use it. This now only works against units shooting and melee attacks in one instance. So if you're being shot at by a unit with -1 AP and being charged by a unit with -1 AP in melee, you can use this stratagem to reduce one of those instances to 0 AP. Most of the time you probably want to use it in melee, but again, depending on what's shooting at you. So for example, if you've got, I don't know, auto cannons, which are strength 9 -1 AP, 3 damage flat, and you've got Chosen, you might want to use that on the shooting instead of the melee, because obviously any shot that goes through just kills the Chosen outright. Works in the fight phase as well as the shooting phase. Like I mentioned, it is in melee. You can use cover most of the time to mitigate the incoming AP, but obviously there are times where that's not possible. But in melee, there are very few ways to mitigate AP in melee, and this is one of them. Really good into mass AP1 attacks. AP2 in melee against Terminators now means that they're saving on a 3-up instead of a 4-up, which is really good. A lot of the time in melee, it's either damage 2, damage 3, and into something like a Terminator where you've got AP2, you're making them take a 50-50, save. Being able to make that a bit better does help. But yeah. So standout units and combos. The first one is the Party Bus. So Noise Marines can be brought as allies for Chaos Space Marines. They're 145 points for a unit of 6. And speaking as Emperor's Children player, these are an exceptional unit. In my opinion, they're an auto-include. There are other detachments, which these are better in, but we'll get onto that in a different video. You can get 4 Sonic Blasters with 18-inch range, 3 shots at strength 5, -1 AP, 2 damage, which ignore cover. However, the main reason you're bringing them is because of the Blastmasters. So the Blastmasters have 2 different types of frequency. There's the varied frequency and the single frequency. So both at 18-inch range. Varied frequency has 6 shots at strength 6, -2 AP, 1 damage, and ignores cover. So that profile's really good into, Sisters of Battle, Eldari, any kind of toughness 3, even toughness 4, 1 wound infantry, because you're just going to be absolutely shredding them. Like Necron Warriors, for example, you shoot them, wound them on a 3, but they're AP2, so it's going to be a 6-up save and 1 damage. That's 12 shots coming in. That can probably kill a unit of 10. Or at the very least, do a lot of damage to a unit of 10 for free. Single frequencies, probably the big one. You're going to be using this a lot. 3 shots, strength 10, -2 AP, flat 3 damage, ignores cover. That's the big, it's a souped up auto cannon, basically. And it's really, really strong. As anyone who can tell has been using Noise Marines or has had Noise Marines against them, it is a nightmare to be dealing with them from range, because they just hit so hard. You don't get the benefits of the Dark Pact, unfortunately, because obviously they're not naturally a Chaos Space Marine unit. They're an Emperor's Children one now. But the trade-off is that you can put them in the Rhino, and because the Rhino was firing deck 2, it can use 2 profiles from 2 shooting profiles from the squad that's in it, against the and use it as its own, basically. So because the Rhino is a Heretic Astartes Chaos Space Marines unit, you can use the Dark Pact on that, and then use the Blastmasters instead of the combi bolters or whatever the Rhinos usually got, and shoot out. So that's 6 shots at strength 10 minus 2 AP, 3 damage flat, ignoring cover. That can also get full rerolls to hit, because obviously if you target in your Focus of Hatred, this thing can just destroy it. And it can also use lethal or sustained hits on Blastmasters, which is incredibly good. As a Lord Cacophonist with this guy, with a squad of 6 Noise Marines, a Lord Cacophonist with sustained hits, it's very, very scary. You do hit a lot of times. But yeah, Noise Marines, squad of Noise Marines and a Rhino, definitely consider bringing one. Chaos Lord with a Demon Hammer and War Master's Gift. With Legionaries, as mentioned earlier, Chaos Lords are one of our best data sheets and a workhorse model for the army. Enhancement paired with Chance for Glory allows him to get 3 damage per hit with Dev Wounds into your Focus of Hatred on a 5-up, which is just self-explanatory. The Legionaries giving them the rerolls to wound. I don't really need to get into this, for the obvious reason. A lot of people already know how powerful Chaos Lord Legion combo is. Yeah, Legionaries are pretty much an auto-include with a Chaos Lord. But yeah, I'd say that combo is really, really nice. Warpsmith with the Eye of Abaddon, like I mentioned earlier, you can just put him next to a vehicle. He'll get lone operative within 3 inches, if he's within 3 inches of it, sorry. Granted, a lot of people would just put this on Demon Prince as they're durable, but they're already very expensive anyway. If you want to put the Warpsmith nearby a Predator or a Forge Fiend or even something like a Land Raider, probably a Vindicator, if you're being aggressive, you can do that. But yeah, the +1 to hit is nice. You get long range, high damage shooting platform, and if you kill your Focus of Hatred, then there's a 50% chance you'll get that command point back, which is nice. Always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Second up is, again, this isn't in a hierarchy, this is just in a list of things that I could think of. This is a bit of a read, so if you want to pause this and screenshot it or do whatever, if you're list building, you're more than welcome to do so, but I will just give it the brief rundown because I am quite hungry and I have a Chinese that I'd like to order. I do love Chinese food, for those who are watching, and I hope you do as well. But yeah, Chinese Chaos Lord in Terminator armor with eager for vengeance, leading either a squad of 5 or 10 Terminators, and obviously on the opposite side you've got the Sorcerer with the enhancement instead. Classic CSM Terminator brick, personal favourite of mine. Normally the Chaos Lord in Terminator armor is pretty mediocre, not spectacular, but he's not bad. However, in this detachment with the enhancement, he is strong, especially if brought with both a Combi Bolter and a Chain Fist. Eager for Vengeance essentially is just giving him extra movement, which is something you're never really going to complain about, and having access to fallback, shoot, and charge is just really good on a unit of Terminators. So there's a lot of scenarios where you can actually do this on. So the first one is falling back, shooting the unit you fell back from, and then charging into another unit. So you're just tagging and then moving along. In addition to this, you can also fall back from a unit, capture an objective, and then do an action on it. So Terminators naturally are quite durable. They're a very tanky unit. Having the ability to just sit on, fall back from a unit, get scoring points in instead of shooting stuff. You can pretty much just score instead of needing to get a kill on a unit. Fall back, allow your army to shoot the unit you fell back from, and then fall back onto an objective and do, any kind of action really if you need it for points. Getting points is usually better off than actually killing a unit a majority of the time, so it's there in case you do need it. But yeah, you also get +1 to hit and charge against your Focus of Hatred as well, so that's just extra reliability. It can help in some circumstances, but it's not really going to be one of those things where it's like the +1 to hit is so good and the +1 to charge is so good. The +1 to charge is probably the better of the two. But yeah, the Sorcerer, eager for vengeance can be brought on him as well. He's weaker in certain aspects but stronger in others. Death Hex is obviously something the Sorcerer will get, which increases every attack target in that particular unit, increases it by 1 AP, which is really good for your Focus of Hatred. Allows -1 AP bolt guns, -2 AP chainswords, -3 AP power fists in the equivalent, and -4 AP las cannons. So again, that's just self-explanatory. Anytime you're forcing your opponent to go to an invul save or to a 6-up save, it's always going to be helpful. Reroll charge and advance rolls for the unit, so very helpful into having +1 to charge against your focus of hatred. Threat ranges have massively increased, so having the ability for your Terminators to advance and charge is just incredibly useful. Obviously, re-rolling advance rolls on Terminators is nice because sometimes you do roll the 1 and you don't need to. You can obviously have the opportunity to do that without having to waste a command point. Mass AP1 combi bolter shots are actually quite scary as well, especially with lethal hits. On top of that, you can also use the Dev Wounds 1. So not only are you doing a lot of devastating wounds, or up to 6 devastating wounds with the Black Crusade, I think it's a Black Crusade stratagem, you can just force the tank to take an absolute boatload of AP1 saves, or infantry to take a lot of AP1 saves. You're probably going to kill whatever you're shooting at, or at the very least do a lot of damage to it. Obviously, the Lord gets the Lord of Chaos stratagem, which means ability, which reduces the incoming cost of stratagems by 1. So you can get free reactive move, armor of contempt, Black Crusade for dev wounds, let the galaxy burn if you want to ignore cover, fights first for a command point if you're going up against your focus of hatred. They're also better in melee because obviously the sorcerer just has the staff, which does have dev wounds, which is nice, but more reliable damage from melee is the Chaos Lord with the Chain Fist. Obviously, Chain Fist is anti-vehicle 3 up, and Strength 8 -2, 2 damage flat is really nice onto a vehicle. In my opinion, I would bring the Lord because of the sheer amount of versatility, whereas if you want to bring the Sorcerer, you can do. It's genuinely up to you, but I personally just go for the Lord. Next up, we have 5 Raptors and 10 Warp Talons. So Raptors are obviously just, I'll quickly cover the Raptors first because it's the quicker one of the two. Damage output's pretty anemic, but if you put a Focus of Hatred on something and give them full rerolls to hit, your skirmishing units suddenly amplify a damage where you're able to kill unprotected MSU squads quite reliably. Obviously, you've got the Power Fist and the 2 Melter Guns on top of the Chainsword, which is nice. They're also great when it comes to scoring secondary objectives, so taking your opponent's unguarded objectives and just being an overall nuisance. Granted, they are only T4 2 wounds and 3 up armor, so they will die to a stiff breeze most of the time, but they are something your opponent really needs to just, they're annoying, which is can be considered a mind game, because if you've got these in your backline, their backline causing a lot of problems, still technically gets them frustrated, so they might play a bit worse. But yeah, the 10 Warp Talons, obviously, most people already know how lethal 10 Warp Talons are. They're just scary good. Drop down and just delete a unit and then just come straight back up. They are 270 points, so you could probably bring them. Well, it is possible if you want to commit to it. Don't bring 5 because there's no point. But yeah, the reason for this is obviously Focus of Hatred. They have Twin Linked on the Lightning Claws, so Strength 5 -2 AP, 1 damage, Twin Linked, and having the ability to get full rerolls to hit as well allows them to pretty much reliably kill whatever you're throwing them at. Obviously, you've got to be reasonable. You can't just walk into a tyrant and just kill it in one go with these guys. It's just not going to happen. But having the ability to just get reliable, sustained, and lethal hits is just really, really good. And then obviously you can just rapid ingress them next turn and just keep doing it. So it can be quite predictable. Your opponent can prepare for this, but realistically, it's still very, very scary. Next up is Abaddon with 5 Chosen. So Abaddon obviously gives full rerolls to hit within 6 inches. However, this won't be used a lot in this detachment, primarily because you've got the Focus of Hatred. It literally just does what he does. So most of the time, you're going to be using the 4 Pinval. Damage is taken care of by Abaddon, and obviously your Focus of Hatred will be nuked down by either him or the rest of your army. So your better plays would be revolving around making your infantry within 6 inches more durable. So Abaddon isn't really competitive, like some people say he's really good, and he is. He's fun to play, but the way I found it is you put him with 5 Chosen, you run up to something with advance and charge, you smack it really hard, probably kill it, and then you die next turn. Having the 4 Pinval though is quite good. So obviously the Chosen, the only thing that the Chosen don't have that the Terminators do is +1 toughness. So you do have T5 Terminators, which can be big because that's a break point in my opinion. And you also have the 4 Pinval, whereas the Chosen don't. They just have a 3 up armor and the 2 up armor save on the Terminators as well. Most of the time you're going to be popped to your 4 up Pinval anyway if someone's shooting into Terminators, unless they're just doing it for a joke. Having the 4 Pinval essentially makes them as durable as Terminators, because they've still got that 4 pinball and 3 wound profile, which Abaddon, Abaddon is basically just 3 Terminators stuck to 1, whereas your Chosen are now a lot more durable because of him. Vindicators, Predators, and Forge Fiends. So Predators and the different variants. Obviously, you've got the Destructor, which is the auto cannon, and the Annihilator, which is the the big, scary anti-vehicle / monster one. Are great. Personally, I prefer the Destructor. I do have a soft spot for the Annihilator, though. Full rerolls to hit for long-range shooting support is impactful and helps delete high wound toughness targets. If you've got an especially tough unit to deal with, though, obviously you want to throw a Vindicator at it. Granted, the Vindicator does have a lot shorter range, at 24-inch range, but the Strength 14 Demolisher Cannon with D6 plus 3 shots is perfect for those scenarios. Forge Fiends are also good here, if you want to bring them. They're probably going to be better in Soulforge Warpack, however, because the +1 to wound on a Strength 10 weapon is a lot better than having full rerolls to hit on that specific weapon. But yeah, it's there if you need it. So this is where I get a bit critical, and I say this from a place of love, and the reason as to why is because I really do love this detachment. I think it's such a cool, thematic detachment. First of all, I'll just go through the strengths because I'm on a bit of a time limit here. So Focus of Hatred is a very simple generalist role which benefits your entire army. You'll get a damage increase on your infantry and your vehicles, which are your heavy hitters, and more reliable procs on dart packs. As mentioned earlier, your vehicles will have be able to hit a lot harder, and that allows them to pave the way for your infantry. They do have useful stratagems, so Contemptuous Disregard, Millennia of Experience for your movement, Black Crusade for your movement or damage, and Let the Galaxy Burn for your damage are all very usable in game. Mentioned earlier, you can get these for free from a Chaos Lord, or they only cost 1 command point if you don't have a Chaos Lord nearby. Strong into elite armies, so any kind of army with low model counts, like Custodes, Knights, Greater Demon Spam, Tyrannid Monster Mash list, that kind of thing. Very good into them because it means out of the 5 units they've got, you're probably going to nuke down one of them, and if you keep doing that once per turn, that 5 or 6 units that you should be scared of have now been whittled down to about 3. So, your opponent's going to be very, very hamstrung at that point, and you'll have cut their tendons, for lack of a better word. A lot of variety in the list potentially because it's a generalist list. There's not something specific like your Focus of Hatred is just good on everything. Legionaries, Raptors, Chosen, Possessed, Vindicators, Predators, Warp Talons. It's a very mix and match general detachment, so it's very lenient in that respect. Your Focus of Hatred as well also works in Overwatch, so something that's often overlooked, but if you've got a shooting platform which gives you full rerolls to hit against something, and obviously your dart packed in, those 6s now become lethal or sustained, which is really good, and your Overwatch suddenly becomes quite scary. The weaknesses, so it revolves too much around the Focus of Hatred. So as I've mentioned previously, a majority of the enhancements and the stratagems rely on or get extra benefits from being against your Focus of Hatred. It should just be the overall game. So I'll read it here. So it seems a majority of the enhancements, stratagems, and overall gameplay of this detachment are primarily concentrated around targeting your Focus of Hatred. While this is to be expected, as it makes sense from a lore perspective, the detachment would be a lot more pragmatic if some of the enhancements and stratagems weren't locked primarily to your Focus of Hatred. It harms more than it helps, and ultimately this detachment is far worse for it. So it's primarily, I'll get into it when I'm at the end, but essentially certain enhancements need to just not have the the Focus of Hatred limitation on them. They should just have certain limitations removed from them. Stratagems need to have extra benefits for. So the way it is, and I'm trying to articulate this, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but if I've got a stratagem, I need that stratagem to be good on its own. I don't need it to be, you can only use this against your Focus of Hatred. You want to have a solid foundation for a stratagem, and then the Focus of Hatred is the little sweetener that you add on it. So you can, a good example of this is the Eager for Vengeance. So yeah, fall back, shoot, and charge on Terminators with, combi bolters and everything. Fantastic. You do get extra benefits for targeting your Focus of Hatred, but the enhancement itself on its own is quite solid. That's the philosophy that you should subscribe to when you're building these types of lists and these stratagems and detachments. It's just not fun to be like, is he my Focus of Hatred? No, right, I can't do anything against him then. And that's the problem. But yeah, this is also a very command point intensive detachment as well, because obviously we have two command point stratagems, which will put you in a bad position. So you can either save your command points early on the off chance that you might need to use one of the more expensive ones later on, so the fights first one, for example, or pick a different focus of hatred, or you use your command points early on, which is probably what you're going to do, and potentially lock yourself out of using them later on, because most of the time you're not going to have a lord nearby if you're trying to get put in a different target for your focus of hatred or fights first for 2 command points. Very rarely will you have access to that unless you get very lucky with your rolls. Obviously we do have limited command point regen, but Master of Executions, Killing a Character, and Eye of Abaddon, which is thankfully one of the better ones, but it's still only 1 per turn extra that you can get. It's also quite predictable, so if your opponent knows that you're going to, concentrate your attacks onto one unit, then it'll allow your opponent to play differently and potentially bait you into using your focus of hatred on a unit you would otherwise want to not use it on. And while you're focusing on, one side of the board, the other side of the board's being taken over, and it's one of those things, unfortunately. Anything that doesn't give rerolls to hit and gets rerolls to hit as an ability doesn't benefit from the detachment rule. So Abaddon doesn't work well with this detachment, oddly enough, which I think is a bit strange, because obviously it gets a 6-inch aura for rerolls to hit. In addition to that as well, Terminators also just get rerolls to hit from using dart packs anyway at both range and melee, so you don't get that. But then again, that could be flipped and said that's a positive, because then you don't need to worry about Terminators. You could put Terminators on one side of the board and be like, they just get full rerolls to hit. I don't need to worry about it. We can focus on this particular side instead. But then again, what's the point of a detachment rule if you're not directly benefiting it, from it? Because Terminators would be better in Renegade Raiders, let's say, because they get the increased AP, access to advance and charge, yada yada yada. Pack bound as well. They get the sustained hits in melee on a 5-up if you're Slanesh, that type of thing. It's just there's no real reason to bring Terminators, although I do love them. Generalist, again, like I mentioned, it's not specifically benefiting a particular type of unit, so it's not going to benefit like Soulforge Warpack, where it benefits your demon vehicles and your vehicles in general, your infantry, for Creations of Bile. It does benefit, like, don't get me wrong, but Creations of Bile is special, in the sense of it's dedicated specifically towards infantry. In addition as well, it's weakened to hordes, because you can nuke down 1 out of 10 targets quite reliably, but then be stuck on the rest of the other ones. So like I said, if you want to pause at this point, I'm trying to make this video under an hour, so I'll just keep it short and sweet. If you want to pause at this point, this is a list that I managed to make. So you've got Chaos Lords, you've got 2, one with the War Master's Gift, which is the crits on 5s, and the Marker Legend, because I had 10 points left over. We're bringing Cypher for obvious reasons, because it's a fantastic tech choice. Fabius Bile is going to go with a unit of 10 chosen. We also have the Warpsmith with the Eye of Abaddon, and he's obviously going to be sat next to our Predator Destructors and our Vindicators. So we've got 2 of each. We've got 2 squads of 5 Legionaries with las cannons and obviously heavy melee weapons. They're going to go with the Chaos Lords. We've got a Cultist Mob, which is there to just deal with the backline. 2 Chaos Rhinos. We're going to put... You could probably switch these up. We also have Nemesis Claw as well for 110 points, because they're just a really good unit at the minute. Most of the time you want to switch this up, so I would personally bring the Noise Marines as an allied unit, which is what I have done here. We put them in a unit, them in a Rhino with a unit with War Master's Gift. So we then ride these guys forward, drop the Chaos Lord off, and then we go back and pick up either the Nemesis Claw and the Chaos Lord. The Noise Marines usually do want to just stay in the Rhino for the rest of the game, though, because obviously, Dart Packs and Focus of Hatred, they still get their benefits if they're in the Rhino. Again, one of the Rhinos is dedicated specifically to Fabius Bile and the 10-man Chosen, because obviously the Fabius Bile and 10-man Chosen at the minute is ridiculously good. I am a big fan of it. But yeah, I think that's a pretty solid list. You could mix and match it, like I said, there is a lot of play there. You can take out the Nemesis Claw and, take off the enhancement for the Chaos Lords and bring, I don't know, another tank if you want. I think it's 135 points. You could potentially bring an Annihilator if you wanted to do that. Again, there's just a lot of play there. Overall, I'd give this detachment a 6 out of 10. It was originally going to be a 5, but I figured it's not offensively bad, so it deserves a bit of a kick up for that. Full rerolls to hit against one target each choice is genuinely fantastic and it feels great, but the problems are too abundant and a majority of the support provided is too situational. So I do really love this detachment, and when I first bought the codex and read through the detachment list, this is the one that stood out to me. I wanted to make this one, cool, because I do love the Black Legion. I think they're really cool, but this just doesn't seem to benefit melee damage. It's more of a benefits range damage, which is nice because range damage is a lot less risky than melee damage, with some melee assistance from your Chaos Lords and your melee threats in CSM, whereas it's not a melee threat with some range support. It's just some people prefer melee, which is fine. I do. I think melee is a lot more fun than range, but having range is objectively better than melee, because why would I need to get close to someone when I can just blow them up from miles away with a las cannon? A lot of things work well or just okay in this detachment. So like I said, it's a very middle of the road one. Unfortunately, in order to be competitive in this game, you need stuff that excels in a particular thing. It's why Creations of Bile is so strong at the minute, because it's just dedicated to making your infantry as scary as possible. If your local metas like knights, for example, though, or low model count armies, like I mentioned earlier, you could probably give this a 7 out of 10, whereas if it's against hordes, this detachment's like a 4. Include allies like Nurglings, for example, for objective play and objective control. Chaos Knights for high melee damage, and that doesn't rely on the detachment rule if you need that. But yeah, if I were to change a couple of things and make it a bit more viable, I would reduce all stratagems to 1 command point. 2 CP stratagems are already quite situational as is, so this was incentivized bringing in more Chaos Lords in order to get, the stratagems for free instead. Endless Ire can now be used within either 18 or 24 inches. I'm probably going to say 18 and cost 1 command point. So if you've got a Chaos Lord nearby, you can get it for free, which is really good. It mimics the Gilliman thing, that Gilliman can get it for free if you blow up one of your Oath of Moment targets. Improve War Master's Gift by making it crit on a 5 against anything, not necessarily a Focus of Hatred. I think that would be a lot more potent and allow you to open up a lot more things, for lack of a better word, in terms of play, and obviously you'll just hit a lot harder anyway. And finally, I think Black Crusade should now crit on 5s with bolt weaponry instead of 6s for the dev wounds, and I still think you should provide dev wounds. Black Crusade is obviously just a bit of a weird one. It'll work on Terminators most of the time because you're just going to fire out that many mortal wounds with the sheer amount of shots you're throwing out with combi bolters is ridiculous. But yeah, it just makes Terminators, which are very much a very cut and dry Chaos Space Marine list of Legionaries, Terminators, Chosen, like the elite infantry Chaos Space Marines want to be scary with bolt guns. They are Black Legion are just the Ultramarines with spikes, pretty much. And Ultramarines, bolt guns, very simplistic. Black Legion should be the exact same. They should be scary with bolt guns, and being able to get that on a unit and get that feel of, oh look, these guys are actually really good with the bog standard weapon that Space Marines get, is very thematic. But overall though, thank you for watching. So please like the video if you've learned anything, or I just wanted to watch or listen along. I do love making these videos for everybody. It's always nice to get in touch with people and speak about the game that I love. Feel free to subscribe if you feel my videos are up to your standards. Obviously I want the channel to grow because it's more motivation for just making better videos and just having a lot more fun with it. But yeah, regardless of wherever you are in the world, it was nice speaking to you all. And no matter where you are, always remember to praise the Dark Gods. Cheers, guys.